What's good, guys? Fantasy Joe back here with our mock draft Monday. If you guys are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. I have a ton of content coming out. Running back rankings just came out, and we'll be updating those throughout the offseason as well. Wide receiver rankings. Part 1 comes out today. Part 2 comes out tomorrow. They've already been recorded, so hit that subscribe button to stay tuned for those. Going to be bringing back some very popular series from last year, league winners, players I target in every draft coming out soon. Another fantasy football profiles coming out, and early round targets, another video that I'm going to be bringing back this year, another video series. So hit that subscribe button if you want to beat your friends and family in fantasy football, get those league winners, values, plus everything you need. Hit that subscribe button, and please hit the like button. Hit that up in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think, who you guys would have taken. It really helps out the video. So we're drafting from the 107, typical league format, 2 receivers, 2 backs, 1 flex, 1 QB, 1 tight end. But this is a PPR draft, so keep that in mind. Well, let's get into it. So, A.J. Brown still on the board. Breece Hall is still on the board. Bijan still on the board. Breece Hall does get a bump to me in a PPR. I would still probably take Bijan ahead of him. Looking at these players, honestly, I think I would probably, in a normal draft, I'd probably take a running back. But I've been telling myself I want to see how different mocks go out. This is the whole point of doing mocks. Let's take an A.J. Brown in round 1 in a PPR league, and let's see how our team turns out when we start with the wide receiver to begin our draft. Jonathan Taylor's still on the board here at the 206. He is very tempting to me at this point in the draft, and a lot of these other wide receivers aren't. So I am going to go ahead and select Jonathan Taylor. Now, he doesn't catch the most passes, so obviously that brings down some of his upside. But I think just as a running back, he's explosive. He can make big plays. I think he's going to get a lot of volume, and that hopefully can make up for the lack of pass catching that he has. Okay, so taking a look at who's still out there, we've got Mike Evans. I believe Hurts is out there. Yes, Hurts is out there. We've got Rachaad White. Derrick Henry is still out there. That's another tempting name. Derrick Henry this far in round 3. A player, though, that I think is going as a real value right now in drafts in round 3 is Travis Kelce. The fact that you can get him this late, a year later, I think the touchdowns will bounce back for him. I think he's going to be targeted a little bit more than he was last year. I think people are thinking he's old and done. I think he's got about 1 more year left where he can go out there, get 1,100 yards, 8-10 touchdowns, and be a fantasy force. When you're able to get that tight end option in round 3, that's a massive advantage. Now, all that said, Mike Evans is still out there. He's a good value. Honestly, the guy I think I would really be tough for me to consider not drafting is Derrick Henry here. I think he offers excellent touchdown upside. But honestly, there's a decent amount, like even Jacobs, James Cook, I wouldn't mind having as my RB2 or Kenneth Walker. So I'm going to go ahead. I am going to take Travis Kelce here. Yes, I'm going to go with Kelce. I didn't know what that button did, so I was like, let's press it. You see a button like that, you got to press it. Okay. Kelce, we pulled the trigger on him. Kyron, too, is almost there. Kyron would have been an auto pick for me in round 3. Thought about him in round 2, to be honest. Taking a look at who is now on the board, let's go back to those running backs. See, okay, Rachaad White, Jacobs, James Cook, also on the board. Let me go ahead and snag up James Cook here in round 4. That's a monster pick to me. Better than even a lot of these other picks. I really like this team so far. I really like starting with that wide receiver, knowing I was able to get a James Cook, a guy who catches passes, Jonathan Taylor, a guy who's explosive, gets a ton of volume. They're both explosive, but neither of them has the most touchdown upside based on the way their offenses roll. But like I said, you take explosive playmakers, they can score touchdowns. Travis Kelce, I think, has great touchdown upside, as does A.J. Brown. And A.J. Brown, JT, James Cook, all explosive players that can make a massive difference, really at any point. Taking a look at who's still out there, Amari Cooper is very tempting to me to lock down that wide receiver 2 position. And looking at this tier, Amari Cooper is on the same tier as any of these players to me. The only other one I would maybe consider is like a Pickens, a Tank Dell. But there's a massive gap to me between Amari Cooper and Christian Kirk heading into this fantasy football season. There's still some good quarterback names on the board, but I am not interested in them right now when I'd have to give up an Amari Cooper to make that quarterback selection in round 5. I'm going to pull the trigger on Cooper and solidify that starting lineup for my team. George Pickens made it back to me. I love that. There's still 4 quarterbacks I don't mind having, and then there's guys in here I don't mind taking a shot on. So I'm gonna continue to pass on the quarterback position. We'll see how this team turns out, especially in a PPR. I was glad I got Cook, Kelsey, AJ Brown, Cooper. I feel like I've got a lot of guys that catch passes. Like we said earlier, Jonathan Taylor's not really that guy, but he does other things extremely well. Taking a look at who's still on the board. Need a flex. It's a PPR. Give me George Pickens. I think the touchdowns are going to go up for him dramatically. I believe they've thrown like 11 touchdowns or something abysmal over the last 2 years for the entire Pittsburgh Steelers offense. Those numbers are as bad as I've ever heard. Even if Russ comes in and stinks, he's still going to throw 18 touchdowns, something minimum a year. Even that number sounds low, but I'm thinking if Russ is really bad. But I think he's going to be in the 20s, and I think that just increases the likelihood for him being a stud. Taking a look who's still out there, we're getting to the point where I don't mind passing on some of these wide receiver options. There is one back out there I really like. His name's Raheem Mostert. I am going to go ahead and take him just considering there's 2 quarterbacks I still really like on the board. So I'm going to take Mostert here. I'm going to hope one of those guys gets back to me in round 8. I feel like I've got 2 solid flex options, a backup back. So I really like the way the team's turned out. Jordan Love still on the board, so I'm going to go ahead and take him here, the last of that tier to me. And now their tiers aren't always my tiers, but in this situation they happen to be. But I really like the way this team has started out. I feel like I've got good depth and a good starting lineup. Taking a look at who's out there, this one I'm going to take Christian Watson. I love being able to get that stack. This is one of my favorite stacks to draft, honestly. When you can get Christian Watson at the 907, you can get Jordan Love in the 8th. Just selecting both of those players, I feel like the upside they have is immense. We've seen Christian Watson dominate for periods where he's on the field. Obviously, injuries are massive risks, but when you're hitting him around 9, a lot of those injury risks are mitigated. And Jordan Love last year was a quarterback 5. I mean, he scores fantasy points. We've seen him do it. I'm willing to take that risk on him again. JSN's still out there. I'll draft him. He's basically an auto pick for me. I thought about him a little bit that last round, but I feel really good about where my receivers are at. And now at this point in the draft, you're kind of taking some shots on some running backs, just hoping to get some depth pieces. But I really like how this team has ended up. And I'm going to take a Jameson Williams here. Another guy, I think he's got a lot of upside heading into this fantasy football season, and he's going so late. It's just, why not take him? I mean, the other guys you're comparing him to don't have this type of upside. It's late in the draft. I'm going to take another receiver. I like Curtis Samuel, another guy I think could be the one on his team, and you're drafting him so late in these rounds. Let's go to the running back position. I will throw a Jalen Wright on my roster. Let's see if something happens to one of those guys in Miami. I could be, in a very beneficial situation. Let's take a look at the roster. So at QB, I've got Jordan Love, running backs Jonathan Taylor, James Cook, wide receiver AJ Brown, Amari Cooper, Travis Kelce, George Pickens, Raheem Mostert, Christian Watson, JSN, Jameson Williams, Curtis Samuel, and Jalen Wright round out the roster. A little bit thin at running back for sure. I would definitely look to attack kind of those waivers at the beginning of the season, find that one, even just a back-end RB2 or, RB3 really, but just a guy that could get the ball 10 to 15 times a game that I could plug in there and play during bye weeks, just have some depth. I feel like Mostert's a good option to flex and be able to put in there as my RB2, but after him, there's a large drop-off. But I really like the team, very interesting starting with the wide receiver. I like doing that in PPR drafts. Like I said, I probably would have taken a Bijan in a normal draft, but when you're able to get Jonathan Taylor, James Cook, I didn't regret taking AJ Brown by any means. He's an absolute stud, and he's a safe draft pick. But I really like the roster, and if you guys have made it to this point in the video, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and if you have any questions or comments, drop them in the comment section down below. I'll respond as always. This has been Fantasy Joe. Thank you guys for watching.